Hi, it's T with Teaquilts, and we are live on Wednesday, June 6th, 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. So if you're watching this video at any other time, just know that you are looking at a recording, and we are actually now waiting for people to come into the chat room, so I see we're starting to get those. And I'm in the process of pulling this up on my laptop so I can read the comments because they go way too fast on my phone. Got Duana's here first. She says, hello, T. Hi, Duana. Thank you for coming. And we've got Doris Dale from Tennessee saying hello. Hi, Doris. We got Erica Selman here. Hi, Erica. Duana says she made it on time. That's cute. Got Sharon Watts here saying hello to everyone. So just take a few minutes. Again, I don't really have a topic today. I did make a topic, but I didn't go in depth with it, and I'm probably not the best person to ask about this topic, and I'll explain why in a minute. Got Patty Spencer here. Hi, Patty. Welcome to the chat. Got Darlene Former here. Say greeting from Northern Virginia. Still recovering from surgery. That's awesome. Glad everything is going as planned. Sheila Hobbs. Say hey, T. Hi, Sheila. Cut this light off. I forgot I had it on for something else. Got Jackie Bass here. She says, hi, everyone. Hi, Jackie. Welcome to chat. Got Barbara Palmer. Greetings from Australia. Welcome, Barbara. Is it in the middle of the night for you? I'm not sure how many hours Australia is. I think they're ahead of us, if I'm not mistaken. And so I got 21 people. It's 7:01. Got Cheryl Wallace just popped in. She says, hello at work, trying to sneak and watch. Hi, Cheryl. Bonita's here. Say, hey, Miss T. Hi, Bonita. Welcome to the chat. Got my brother here. Say, hey, sis. Love you. Love you too, brother. Got Barbara Palmer. Say, no, it's 10 in the morning. Okay. So you're on the next day at 10 in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. And then we got Diane Roney here. Say, I'm finishing a baby quilt. All right. Get it done. Darlene Farmer says it's 8:01 her time. She must be on the East Coast. Florence says, hi from Killian, Texas. You are always happy and cute. I try to be. Today has not been one of my best days. I actually been in bed all day. Got Joan Hackathorn. She's from Iowa. Hi, Joan. Welcome to the live chat. Bonita, you're pretty funny. Pauline Slyman is here from Messina, New York. Welcome, Pauline. So, today, I'm trying to think, what did I work on this week? I actually got sick. If you can tell, I probably got a little more huskier voice today, and it will probably go in and out. I actually decided it would be a great idea to go outside and help my husband with the yard work. So we have a riding mower, so I opted to do the riding part of cutting the lawn. And, you know, since I could sit down, it was no big deal. He could do all the trimming and all of that kind of stuff. This was Saturday. And by Sunday night, I was sick as a dog. So I have been going through sinus issues. I have been taking stuff. So still hacking up stuff. I have cough drops if I go into a fit, and I also have Kleenex. So I'm hoping I can get through this chat with no problems. I'm very heavily medicated, though. So just been resting, trying to get rid of it. and it's just taking its little poor time leaving my body. But I'm always looking at the positive side of everything. Maybe I need the rest, so that's a good thing. We got Mary Bishop here, or let me see, from Bowie, Texas. Welcome. And Sheila says, good luck with that tea. I've been sick with that stuff for 9 weeks. Oh my gosh, I hope it doesn't last that long. And I'm trying not to go to the doctor this time. The only medicine that I'm not taking that they would give me would be prednisone. And I'm just trying not to take that. Got Sarah Ragland here. She says, hey T, I'm sure. Hello everyone. Hope you feel better, T. Thank you so much, Sarah. Got Eva Fuller's here saying good evening. And Dewana is saying take vitamin C. Okay, I can do that. I mostly take multivitamins, so I can get some vitamin C supplements and see if that works as well. Update on far as quilting, what I've done. I did quilt my second charity quilt. So now I have 2 quilts that I need to get the binding on and make labels for. But at least they are quilted. Those are the charity quilts that my larger quilt guild is making for a women's shelter that's being created, and it's going to open in October of this year. So we're trying to get all the quilts done by September, and they need twin size quilts. So I did progress on that. I did not do any other quilt work. Oh, I did work on this a little bit last week. I forgot about that. Our last blocks came out with it since the last time I've seen you. She's actually put out extra blocks for the back. And this is called, I'm blocking the name right now, but it's called, I think it's Graffiti Alphabets or something like that. No, Quilters Graffiti. It's called Quilters Graffiti. It's a pattern that's going to be out soon by Guyleen Fitzgerald, and she will be making a pattern for that. So when it's available, I'll make sure to give you all a link for that, because I've been getting a lot of questions about the alphabet quilt on my wall. She just came out with all the ladders, and she did all the ladders at one time, and she's using the ladders on the back side of the quilt. So when that information comes out, I will make sure to share it with everyone. And let's see, we got comments here saying that they love the ABC quilt. Thank you. I get a lot of questions about that, so I'm trying to make sure that I answer it up front in the video. We got Sonia Jones here. She says, hello everyone from Kentucky. Hi Sonia, welcome to live chat. And then Erica says, t-shirt quilt in progress. So she must be working on her t-shirt quilt. And if you don't know, I will be doing more of a custom quilt layout. It is going to be queen size for you all starting sometime in July. I'm not sure when in July. I know that I am not going to be available for the first week and a half of July. I'm actually going on a trip. So it will start when I get back and get myself situated. But I will try to start doing some, maybe if I can do at least one of the prep videos before I leave. So sometime in June, I'll try to tell you what it is that you may need to do this particular quilt. If you don't want to make a queen size quilt, which is going to be 96 inches square, you have 2 options. If you need it bigger, you can add borders. And if you need it smaller, you're going to have to figure it out yourself what size you're going to make. And like I said, this is a custom layout. So this is one of those layouts that's for a big quilt. So this project may not be for you if you don't want to do at least a queen size. We got Susan Glenn here. She says, hello everyone from Mason, Ohio. And Dewana says, how about everyone send a quilt square and send it to you for the shelter? Yes, I am. I was trying to wait until the Quilting Marine, who also is doing a block right now where he's asking for patriotic blocks. So anything with red, white, and blue fabrics, you can do anything. It can be just a strip block. It doesn't have to be fancy. And he's doing that from Memorial Day until 4th of July. So he's doing that. And I figured for maybe I would start sometimes where people could send me maybe a string block or a crumb block or what I call mosaic block sometime, maybe starting in September, and then maybe next year I'll use those as my charity quilts. So we can talk more about that in this discussion as people like, and I can go from there. You can also put the information in the comment section when this video go live if you have some suggestions. So that's my thing. I decided I wanted to incorporate charity work because I feel like all quilters should do some form of charity because there are so many different causes out that we can do things for. Even if you're just making the 12 by 18 kennel quilts, everything helps somebody somewhere. So thank you for that suggestion. And we got Rosalind Lloyd here. She's from Durham, North Carolina. Welcome, Rosalind. She says, hi, T. I enjoyed watching the retreat. I remember some of the ladies. At the next meeting, please tell them hello. I will, Rosalind. And so it looks like a lot of people are saying it's a great idea. So I'm hoping that I can just do a start date of September sometime because I don't want to overlap with the Quilting Marine. And then on top of that, I am going to, at some point in August, I'm going to have to seriously get the plan going for the retreat that I'm having for the 8 ladies in Hamilton, Missouri. That's in September. So that's why I'm trying to delay that. Susan Glenn says she's working on a block for the Secret Sew for the Quilting Marine. I would love to send you a block too. Well, thank you, Susan. I'll let you know when we get ready for that. Sharon had to leave already. I think she was the one that was at work, if I'm not mistaken. And then Sheila says she started making quilts of valor for veterans and have given away about 15 so far. So that's pretty cool as well. I do, on my own, I normally make a minimum of 1 quilt for my large quilt guild, and then I also make another quilt for my other quilt guild that I actually do for charity. And then every once in a while, if somebody that I know is having a big major event or something and I have the time, then I will go ahead and make them a quilt as well. But it's not considered charity. It's just more of a gift. But I have been making a lot of charity quilts. And sometimes I get behind. Like this year, I've already completed 2. And I'm doing 2 more. So I'm actually on my 4th charity quilt this year. But I've only finished 1. I finished 1 quilt for me that on Ringo Lake, and then I also finished the Mizzou quilt that I just uploaded the video for, but that's also a gift. But so I've only completed 4 quilts, and I'm working on 2 more, and 4 of them are actually charity quilts. So not doing very much this year with completing things, and that's why getting to the topic that I said I may not be the best person for actually choosing quilt patterns and which one should you work on. I've been getting a lot of questions, especially from beginner quilters, where they want to know what type of quilt patterns should they work on or how should they pick quilt patterns. And that's all more of a personal preference, but I will give you some suggestions. You got Juliet Sewing Live. She says, hello, T, tuning in from London, UK. Hi, Juliet. Got Eric Oda here. He says, hey, everybody. Got Susan Millers. Says, I love to use quilt as you go for my charity quilts. And that's a good idea, too, because then you're actually quilting the blocks as you go. Okay, so for beginners, when you're actually talking about what type of quilting design should you work on, if you are a true beginner in quilt making, then quilt patterns and quilts themselves can look so confusing, especially trying to figure out how to piece something because it may not be as obvious. Sometimes, depending on how you get your patterns, be it come from a book, a magazine, a tutorial online, they are written in different styles, and I'll talk about that a little later just as a bonus. So it just depends on how much knowledge and skill you have. The main thing, though, is that simple patchwork is very easy to see, very easy to recognize. The lines is very easy to see how something is actually put together. So maybe if you just had a charm pack and you just decide you're going to use, or maybe 2 or 3 charm packs, and you're just going to spread those charms out throughout the quilt. So then maybe that might be your first quilt and you're just actually sewing all same size squares together. That would make it super simple, and it does accomplish a few things. First of all, it gets you to piecing a quilt top. It teaches you that you need to know what your 1/4 inch seam is. You're going to have to quilt it some kind of way, so you're actually getting skill in quilting. And then you should be making a label for all of your quilts, and so you've got experience with your label. And then you also are making binding. So you're getting 5 skill sets just by piecing one simple quilt top that you wouldn't have had you not done the first quilt in the first place. And so just keeping it simple, you can then focus on some of the techniques of actually getting it completed and knowing what the basic quilt making steps are. So after you have done some sort of a simple quilt, my suggestion and how I did my quilt making is that I kept adding on learning a new skill. That could have been me adding sashing now. It could have also included me adding cornerstones in between my blocks. It could have been me adding half square triangles, maybe flying geese, maybe different technique of doing like paper piecing, or maybe even a particular ruler. There are so many specialty rulers. Your 60-degree triangle ruler. You've got your drunkard's path rulers. You got the rulers that you can do all kinds of curves with. I just did the apple core quilt with the AccuQuilt Go Die, so you can use a lot of those different shapes to add a new skill to learn how to piece. You can also do your New York Beauty quilt tops, and you can make that a new technique that you're learning. So my thing when I first started, I started with something simple. Well, it wasn't really simple. It was a sampler quilt. And in that sampler quilt, I gained a lot of skill sets. But before that, I was also a sewer. So I wasn't new to the sewing machine. I was just new to quilting. So I wasn't intimidated by anything. So a sampler quilt is a great way to actually add in more skill building as you go along, because it makes you think of how to do stuff. And if you don't have what they're telling you to use, then you get very creative on other things that you can use or other methods to create the same thing. And I see the comment section is going, and I'll go to it in a second. And I am about to sneeze or cough. Got my Kleenex. I knew this was going to happen. That's why I'm ready. But anyway, the other thing is when you're looking at patterns, and like I said, I'll get more into the styles of different methods of producing quilt instructions. But if somebody is telling you to make half square triangles by cutting the exact size of a square, cutting it in half, and then you're working with bias edges, if you don't want to do it that way, you have the liberty of completing that same task any way you want. You can make the squares the same. If you need 2-inch finished half square triangles, you can cut 2 7/8 inch squares. Them down. So say maybe you cut them at 3 inches, and then when you cut them apart, you actually square those units up. You can also you can also opt to use any of the Thangles triangle on a rolls, or you can use the CD triangulations that I've been talking to you about in previous videos. So it doesn't mean that because you're adding a particular shape or technique that you still can't be creative and figure out how to do it what's best for you. And that's the main thing about quilt making. So let me just go in and read some of the comments that are coming up. Eric says, my first quilt was a disappearing 9-patch. It's the ugliest quilt in the world, but I don't care. It's the one I love the most. And I do have the same thing with that, because coming from a sewing industry over a quilting industry, my first quilt is not quilted densely. It's just quilted between the blocks and between the sashings and cornerstones. It's a sampler quilt. The blocks are 15 inches. I have never washed that quilt. I don't plan to wash that quilt. I have a desire to fix that quilt, but I have to refrain myself from doing so, because it lets me know from where I started and where I'm actually going. So I don't want to actually change that out. I want to leave it as is, because it shows my progression in the quilting industry. And Liz Ryan has said, hello everyone, I'm late. Hi Liz, welcome to the chat. And then Susan is saying, hey, Eric, I feel your pain with first quilt. My first quarter, it was a hot mess. My first quilt was a hot mess. I still have it, though. Yes, I think we all should keep your first quilt. Never give your first quilt away, because it's your history. Erica says, my very first quilt was a simple square quilt. I picked up a Fons and Porter beginner book and worked on a 9-patch. And that's exactly my point. Just do something very simple as a first pattern, because your goal is you want to be successful and get it finished. If you start something very complicated as a first quilt and then you don't complete it, you're never going to come back to quilting. But had you started with something simple, got that success factor built up, and then you decide you want to add more technique, and then say you decided to start that more complicated quilt pattern, say a few months in, you're more likely to finish and be successful with it. And then Eric says, I am going crazy, or are the alphabets backwards? The alphabets are probably backwards because I'm using my cell phone. So they are backwards. I don't know if I turn them, if it makes a difference or not. But they are backwards. Susan Glenn says, makes for interesting conversation. Yes, to do your first quilt. I take them to my scrap quilt lecture, because that's my very basic workshop that can go from beginner to advanced very quickly. But I do show my first quilt in my scrap quilt lecture. And thinking of scrap quilt lecture, if anyone is in the Missouri area, I will be in Cape Girardeau, which is about maybe 3 hours, 2.5 hours from my home next Monday evening, with the River Heritage Quilt Guild. Juliet says that she used AccuQuilt Baby to make her first strip quilt. It was a first quilt, and I am so proud that I did it. It took me months to actually quilt the top, and I just stitched in the ditch. I love it. And stitching in the ditch, I think that's a great way to get your first quilt done, or to, again, use that serpentine stitch that I talked about in one of my other videos, where you elongate that stitch. So great job on getting it done. We got Sandra Cubbins here. She's from hot Mississippi. Peggy O'Connor is here. She says, hi T, great subject. Thanks for all your knowledge. Thanks, Peggy. Peggy's in my quilting guild as well as my scrap quilting club. Got Vicky Robles here. She says, hi T, I'm finally am home in time to watch you live. I always seem to be away from the TV, so I have to watch reruns. Welcome to the live chat. And then Joan says her first quilt was a log cabin quilt. And Vicky says she do have the first quilt she ever made for her parents, as they have both passed away. Oh, that's really sweet that you got it back. I know I made a quilt for my grandmother, and I haven't seen it yet. I've asked about it, but no one has come up with it yet. So it's just funny. I think somebody's holding out on me. And then you got Betty says, hey T, I'm teaching quilt club to middle schoolers. I start them with simple 4-patch throw, one with the outer border. Amazing how quickly they pick it up. And then we've got Teresa Davison from Los Angeles. Got Michelle Thompson. She says, hello, T and everyone. And got Audrey Daigle says, my first quilt was a log cabin that I hand quilted. That was 30 years ago. Love your videos. Hi from Alabama. Thank you, Audrey, and welcome to the chat, everybody. Okay, so let's go to the next part. When you are a beginner, a lot of beginners think that they have to use a pattern, and that's a whole nother area. You do not have to use a pattern. You can design your own quilt top, and a lot of times that's a lot easier if you think about the types of quilts like your G's Bench quilts where they've got irregular geometric things going on, mostly rectangles and squares. You can cut and chop at your own discretion. You can add in background fabric. You can use whatever it is that you have. You don't have to have a pattern to make a quilt. And a lot of times those quilts are more interesting than even following a particular pattern. So don't be afraid as a beginner to say, I don't need a pattern, because it's actually easier because you're doing your own thing. So especially if you're doing any type or any style of what I consider crumb or mosaic piecing, you can do exactly what you want. There is no right or wrong way. So how do you get your quilting patterns? I say patterns or instructions or designs, but there's various different ways that you can actually receive them. One of the most in your face probably is quilt books, because there are so many of them and they're always being advertised and displayed. And most of your books, they're going to have at least 10 different quilt patterns in them. I'm talking about the full books, not your booklets or anything like that. I'm not talking about the little quick things. Sometimes those little booklets will only have one, maybe two different patterns in it, depending on what's being featured. So some books will be written with very basic quilt knowledge when you get to the actual patterns. And some books will have an area where they will give you all the general information about quilt making, and they're only going to give you one particular way to make a half square triangle, and that's fine. But just know that books are written by a designer to teach you a particular topic. So maybe if somebody's into scrap quilting, you're going to have a book about scrap quilting. If somebody is doing stack and wax, that's going to be the subject area in that particular book. Most of your books are not dual duty as far as having a lot of different techniques going on in them. Then you've got your quilt magazines. And quilt magazines, again, they have a very brief section where they might give you very basic quilting instructions. They used to not even do that long ago. They would just tell you to start sewing, and that's what you did. But now they might feature a particular style, like maybe they might feature how to piece hexagon shapes or how to do some hand applique. They may feature those particular areas in the magazines. And they are assuming that you have some specific experience when you're buying those. Then you get to quilt patterns. And quilt patterns can make or break you because they assume that you already know quite a bit about quilting. So they're not going to be as specific when you buy quilt patterns. Now, when I write my quilt patterns, I do try to make them so that the beginner can look at them pretty easily. Most quilt patterns do not have additional photos included inside. They'll have the photo of the actual quilt in color, and it's very beautiful. And then when you get inside, they're giving you instructions. Sometimes they'll have a diagram showing you what they want you to do. Other times they may not. You're just on your own. When I do my patterns, I try to make sure that I have a photo of every step, because I've learned from teaching that you've got so many different styles of teaching. You got people that you can tell them what to do and they'll go do it. And you've got people that you can show them a picture of something and then they can do it. And then you've got the people that needs to be told and need the picture. And then you need people that need to see it. Either you do it or have it on a display board. So there are so many different teaching styles. And when I teach, I try to cater to all those different styles. So that's where your patterns come in. And then you've got a lot of online tutorials. And those are where you would get so much detail that you're printing out like 15 pages of instructions because they're so detailed, and they've got a picture for every step as well. So those are how you're basically going to get your quilting information. Let me go through the comment section again. I think I'm at Vicky's comment. If I missed your comment, please let me know and retype it down in the chat box. She says, my quilt was an Eleanor Burns quilt. I made it for my parents' bed in their motorhome. Then my dad sold that, and my mom used it every single day for her nap time. Got Shakita Pearson is here. Hi, Shakita. She says, hi, yes, my first quilt was a sampler quilt. I took a beginner's quilt class at Tiny Stitches Quilt Shop. The only quilt I hand quilted. Sarah says, my quilt was for a grandson. I was doing Ninja Turtles. He wanted puppies, so it has both. Laughing out loud. And got people saying they love books or they'll buy patterns. Erica says, I've never thought of doing crumb quilt as a beginner quilt. Interesting idea. And I think any string or crumb quilt is suitable for a beginner, and it's because they don't have to worry about the 1/4 inch seam. All you've got to, when they first start out. So if you have them making, say, at least 4 blocks, by the time they've made 4 crumb blocks or string blocks, by the time you square that up and now you get ready to add sashings or borders, they've had time to practice that 1/4 inch seam. So I think you'll be a little bit more accurate by then. Whereas if you're sewing, say, 9 patches or 4 patches where pieces have got to come back and match up, and if that 1/4 inch seam isn't right for a beginner, then your pieces are not going to align. And so it's a little bit more cumbersome for them, a little bit more complicated, a lot more frustrating. So I tend to teach my beginners string and crumb blocks because it's not so serious when they first start out, and more repetition, they start to relax a little bit. We have, my screen rolled again. That was Erica's comment, so I just need to find Erica's comment and then go to the next one. Teresa says, my first quilt was a grandmother's flower garden, entirely hand-pieced and hand-quilted. Pieces cut out with cardboard and scissors. It took forever. And yes, and that is a very great first project if you've got someone that isn't afraid of handwork. I think that's an excellent idea because they can take it with them. It can be transported. Take smaller sections that you have grouped together. Vicky says, I'm supposed to be quilting right now. I just received on Saturday the next blocks to make for the Cotton Club, my mystery quilt. This was block 5. It's really kind of fun. And Dewana says her first quilt was a baby quilt. The first quilting magazine I ever bought was Quilter's Newsletter magazine back in the 70s. Before that, my mom used patterns published in the newspaper, and that's where a lot of this started, was from newspaper quilt patterns. Sylvia saying hello to everyone. June is here. She says, hi, Tien, everyone. And Vicky says she has to make 5 quillos for little children. I've made those a long time ago. That was pretty fun. I haven't made those in a while. I used to make them for baby showers. The Quilting Marine is here. He says hello to everyone. Got Michelle Thompson says, I love crumb box. Very relaxing and great stash buster. And the Quilting Marine says they're so calming to him as well. I got my machine trying to do an update on my laptop, so hold on just a minute. I'm going to schedule it to do an update at 10 to make sure we're finished. Pick a time. I put 10 and do check mark. Okay. So, it wanted to do an update when I first cut it on, but of course I only had 15 minutes and it told me it was going to be an extensive update. So definitely didn't want to do that then. So we have, Eric says, my hand is sore just thinking about hand work. I know, I don't hate it. It's not calming for me. I do a lot of some of the grandmother's flower garden things, and then I will just hold them, and whenever I need them or use them, I'll use them then. But I do plan at some point in my life to have a completed quilt, so I just do some here and there. Teresa Sanford said, just joining. Good evening from Tennessee. Hi, Teresa. Welcome. And the Quilted Marine said his first quilt was a baby quilt for his grandson and the rest of his life. Okay, so pattern to show you. So I pulled the block. I had this block out because it was the last one I pieced, but I actually got the container out, and then I'll go back a little bit. Pattern to show you. So I pulled the block. I had this block out because it was the last one I pieced. And I just wanted to show you the pattern. I don't even know where my actual pattern is, but it's called Mountaintop. And this is a photo of the actual quilt that I'm making. And I was trying to show you some of the pieces that I had actually sewn together, but it's only 3 blocks. But this is how they look. And these are all leftover batting pieces. I mean, binding pieces, not batting. Binding pieces. So I just wanted to show you. And then I've got like quite a few blocks in here that I've already done. More down here. So I have quite a few blocks I've done. But I didn't have it off the shelf when I was talking with you all before. So my problem, the reason why I am not the best person to talk about projects, I am a technique junkie and I am a gadget junkie. So if a new technique comes out, I like to try it. Maybe I don't need a whole quilt out of it. Maybe I will take and just put it with my extra block container, and then I will just make a sampler quilt out of it. The other reason I love new tools, so if a new ruler comes out and it's something fantastic, I tend to buy that ruler. And I might do about 8 to 10 blocks to get a hang of it. And then I might put it away. I don't need to actually do a particular project with it at that time. But I know the technique. And if something comes up, or if I find the perfect fabric for either of those techniques, then I might decide I want to do it at that time. The other thing, as a lecturer, instructor, teaching, quilting, I am one of those people that like to show you how it's done. And so I will never come into a place and not have some steps pre-sewn for you. What that tends to mean is if I'm doing a lecture and somebody says, can you do a workshop on that? I've already completed the quilt. So I have to go back and start another one and get some of those steps progressed through so that I can show these various steps as I'm teaching. That's just how I like to teach, because I find it very beneficial for the people in my class. I mentioned to you before, I'm one of those people that have a lot of works in progress. I found that as soon as I finish one of my quilt tops, then that's when that class will get requested for me to teach again. It's just how it works. It's just funny like that. I can have a quilt top in an unfinished state for 3 years. As soon as I finish it, somebody's asking me for that particular thing. Now, recently, I have been trying to use what I call paper fabric, where I print fabric off on paper. I made a video about that, and then I attach it to other fibers so that it can stick to a design wall. And so I've been trying to do that more recently, and it has helped in the last 2 or 3 classes that I've had to teach. But if it's a particular technique, I may not. If it's something that's dealing with other squares and half square rectangles, then I may have to actually restart that project again. So I'm just one of those people that have a lot of things going on. I do have a lot of quilt tops as well, and that's because I'm so busy with my scrap club, I have to give them projects, and then I try to make those projects as well with them. And so I have a lot of quilt tops. There's just not enough hours in a day between me working with my big gil, my small gil, scrap quilting club, YouTube, doing lectures and workshops, and then all of the emails and comments that go along with all of that. So I am very busy. So I do have, I'm just going to guess off the top of my head and say maybe 30 to 35 quilts that are ready to be quilted. So I do have some things I've added onto my to-do list that I have to get done, or should get most of those done by the end of the year. So I should be getting some projects done for you this year, hopefully. But it just depends on my schedule, because if I'm hired out to make a quilt for somebody, or if I'm hired to do some machine quilting for other people, then that takes precedence over my own personal things that I'm working on. So that's why I don't think I'm the best person to answer a question from a beginner, because I have so many works in progress. Let's see what's going on in the comment section. Uh-oh, my screen rolled. Get it back to the top. So I think people were saying those are awesome. I think they were talking about the mountain top blocks. That's a pattern. You can Google it and find the pattern for that. And Vicky is asking, how long did it take me to make each block? And this is one of those things that I do as chain piecing, and what Bonnie Hunter now calls leaders and enders. So I don't really know how long it takes for me to do one of these, because I just sew all of my little extra half square triangles together, and then I will square them up. And then when I get, say, maybe 50 or 60 of them, then I'll make another block. And I'm still making that block as a chain piecing while I'm working on other projects. So while I'm working on this, I'm actually making half square triangles for this. So I don't really have a time. So I feel like these blocks have all been made with free time, because I haven't devoted any time to it, actually. We have the Quilting Marine said that's a great teaching technique. Vicky says, hold on. We got the Quilting Marine says, someone like me needs those steps. I have to learn Mr. Potato Head style. Dewana wants to know, what are quillos? Quillos are where you make a quilt top, but on the back side of the quilt, you add a pillow panel that you only, when you make the panel, it's sewn all the way around. But when you sew it onto the back of the quilt, you sew it in the back center third at the top of the quilt, and then you only sew 3 sides of it. And what you do is you actually fold the quilt top in thirds, and then you roll it up, and then the top part will fit inside of the pillow. So when it's actually folded up, you now have a pillow. That's why it's called a quillo. And they're pretty fun to make and very easy to do, because you can even just make it with plain fabric and just do a decorative pillow if you like. And then we've got other people that are answering. I see Eric has answered her as well. The Quilting Marine says that he feels that quilters should get an extra day in a week and call it Bobbin Day. So I'm still reading from the comment section, so forgive me. I'm trying to make sure that I only read what needs to be read, because some of you all are talking to each other, and again, I like that. Got the contratenor. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. Says, I'm in the process of making quilting videos. I didn't know how hard it was to make the quilting videos. And yes, it is very difficult to make quilting videos. It's not as easy as it seems, especially if you decide to do any editing, and that's when it gets a little bit more complicated. And I try to edit some of mine out. And my most difficult part about making quilting videos is that I don't really have a lot of space to actually show. And so I'm just making do with what I have. So I do the best with what I have. So it is difficult. Vicky says making all those half square triangles do take time. I don't think making these half square triangles take time because I'm just making one at a time. But they end up going pretty fast when I'm working on other blocks and I'm not breaking my thread. June Hansen says, my first quilt was a lap quilt for my 90-year-old aunt, and that was about 15 years ago. And she is gone now. That was really sweet. Got Joni Foot is here. She says, hi, T. Got Eric says he's never made a quillo. They're actually pretty fun if you've got a little kid. They're mostly kid quilts because then they can fold them up and keep it all together in one. Rosin said, I don't understand how you make half square triangles from binding. When I'm doing binding pieces, I happen to have a whole lot of them over here. I sew them on the diagonal, and then when I cut them apart, I end up with all of these little pieces. So what I do is I go to my die cutting machine and I cut a lot of them out of muslin. And then when I'm chain piecing, I just add one of these onto here. And then I now just sew these together. And then I'm not worried about what size they are because I'm squaring them up after the fact. And I talked about how I square up using Quilting a Day's ruler in that previous video as well. So normally people would throw those little extra ends away when they connect their binding. But I keep those, and that's what I'm making these blocks out of. And got Vicky says, I make special pocket for the quilt and fold it into that. And I always make quilts first with lots of blocks. So I got some people that are trying to spam me, but thank God YouTube spamming is working overtime. So they've got about 4 comments that they're trying to get in. So we've got Susan says, do you have a favorite quilt or pattern? And my favorite style of quilting is, as far as scrap quilts in general, I love scrap quilts. So anything scrappy. But if I had to pick a particular pattern or style that I like, I actually love the stack and whack quilts because I love how the different fabrics look depending, or the different designs you can make based on the fabric itself. So I'd say stack and whack because I love playing with the different fabrics that you can use. The Quilting Marine says, T, you have great videos. Thank you, sir. I've been watching yours. I saw you was in Walmart a few days ago. And I did inform them about donating to your blocks that you're collecting for your Quilts of Valor. I do plan to send you one. It's going to be something simple, though, because I just want to get it done. And appreciate you doing that and putting that out there. Cheryl Land says, hello, everybody. And Vicky says, it was fun to meet you at the Paducah Quilt Show, but your friend didn't push the button all the way down on our camera, so our picture did not turn out. I'm sorry about that, Vicky. And I can't, of course, remember because it's so much going on. I'm sorry that happened. If you see me out again, stop me again. Liz says, my first quilt was a layer cake mixed with my pieces of embroidery. I was hooked after that. Erica says, I have started using my leftover triangles to start my crumb blocks. I do have a quilt with leftover half square triangles, but it's another UFO right now. I got so many quilts that started from these half square triangles, and I've got a lot of them just stored, waiting to be used. But I do use them on borders and quilts as well, so it just depends on what I want to do with them. And the Quilting Marine is saying he's going to have Happy Mail live tomorrow. June is asking what size quilt blocks. They're actually 10.5 inches unfinished that the Quilting Marine is collecting. I'm still having allergy and issue problems, so you all have to forgive me. I'm talking out of my nose now. And Joni was asking if I was going to do a video on the triangle squares because they look so lovely. I don't know at this point because it is a pattern, so I would recommend you go get the pattern because I wouldn't be giving you any sizes. And then if I'm not giving you any sizes, and even I make mine a different size, but I don't feel comfortable giving out sizes on an actual published pattern. So right now I'm saying no. And Rosalind Lord is saying, how can she donate to the Quilting Marine? So, Mark, if you could please just put your information down somewhere so that they can get that to you. Either you can go to the Quilting Marine's YouTube page and he has it there. He has his mailing address there. But if you want to, Mark, you can put it in the chat box. That would help some people as well. And Erica's saying, what is the name of the pattern? It's called the Mountaintop. Let me look again. I don't have my actual pattern in here. I don't know where it is. It should have been in here. But I thought I wrote it on. Yes, it's just called the Mountaintop. I actually purchased it at a quilt shop in Missouri a few years ago. And I guess when I first started it, I wasn't organized. And this is what I have organized since I started. But I wasn't reading the pattern because I wasn't doing the sizes that they told us to use. I was using whatever I had left over. So that's why I don't have the pattern in the package. Vicky saying, gosh, T, will you be teaching your alphabet quilt online here? Nope, because it's a pattern. It's by Jilene Fitzgerald, and she's actually getting the pattern ready. I was in her group. We're more like her testers, and then she's actually getting the pattern put out, and she's actually got the letters that will go with it. I am not piecing the letters, or I'm not piecing them at this time. I appreciate your comments, Vicky, but no, I won't be. I don't do anything that's a published or will be published pattern, so she has a copyright to that. And thanks, Mark, for putting your information in the box. So everyone that was looking for where to send a 10.5 inch unfinished block to Mark, it's in the chat box. So please write it down so that you have it. And then he's looking for blocks that are using red, white, and blue or patriotic fabrics. What's the name of the pattern is Barbara Short's question. I'm assuming I've given out the other pattern as the Mountaintop, and then the alphabet quilt up here, it's going to be called Graffiti. Quilter's Graffiti. I keep saying graffiti first. It's called Quilter's Graffiti by Jilene F. Fitzgerald, I think. Let me go on Facebook real quick and check it for you. Jilene X. It's Jilene X Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald. Jilene is spelled Gylleen. So if you Google those, she just finished up with the group and she announced that the pattern would be available in a week. So You can Google her. You can become her friend on Facebook, and then you can inquire about the pattern. Okay, so I think I have answered everything in the chat box so far. I did have a couple of things I wanted to talk about. I was looking at Angela Walters' video, and she has a pattern that she called Coral, and it's actually looking something like this, except that I made it in EQ. And I want to get up close so you can see where in her pattern, this chisel was a square, and then another half square triangle right here. So if I block that off for a square, and then this part right here was a half square triangle, you've got a half square triangle up here, and then you had another square. And when I was looking at her pattern, I determined that if you have an AccuQuilt Go and you have the chisel die, that you can actually make this block using the chisels. So I actually went and made it in EQ so that I wouldn't forget that I could do this. And Angela Waters just did a YouTube upload for the Coral pattern, and she's using, and I think hers are 4x8 and mine's are going to be, yeah, let me see, her half square triangles are 4 inches square. And so my half square triangles, if I'm using my AccuQuilt Go system, will be 3 inches square. So I'm always adapting things that are that I might want to do, especially if I can die cut it. And so I just made this as a little sheet that if I have some scraps that I'm cutting up, maybe I might start cutting up some chisels and use them in this way. And again, it's a free pattern. She talks about it on her YouTube page called Corals. And then on my quilting retreat video, Becky was working on the Film at 5 quilt pattern, and so I went to the site that she talked about in that video, and I copied the instructions into a Word document so that I would have it. Anytime I want to do something that's a tutorial, I tend to copy the text into my word processing program so that I can print it. And I am actually going to do a tutorial on how to do that, because when you copy a tutorial that has a lot of pictures and a lot of instructions into another program, you can be printing up to 20 and 30 pages just to make one quilt. And so when I got through with it, I think this one may have been like 17 pages, and I got it down to 3 pages for the entire instructions. And so I may do a video about how I do that well when I get some time. But so yeah, you can go to that. It's called, the website for the Film at 5 quilt is Wedding Dress Blue, I think. But you can also just Google Film at 5 quilt tutorial, and it will definitely come up. So now I've got somebody in here that has come through, and he has put up a lot of stuff. So just ridiculous. So somebody apparently is just making up YouTube names to come in here and do spam. So I'm sure that was the same person that couldn't get through before with his other name. So let me go back through the comments, because the guy had put so many in that it made it go all the way to the bottom. So Barbara Short saying that the half square triangle quilt is the mountaintop. Yes, that's correct. Vicky says, I have the electric Go and I've never used it as yet. Plus, I have the other one, which I used only once. I need to get organized. Yes, please get them out and start using them. I think once you start using them and realize what dies you have that you can use your Go for, you will be a lot more productive with it. And Eric says, hey T, how big is that scrap-o-rama quilt that you showed on your retreat video? It looks huge. The actual finished size, according to her measurements, is 90 by 108. It's made for a queen size bed. And she doesn't have any other sizes in the pattern. Sometimes you can get a pattern and they'll have 2 different sizes in them from Iowa Star Quilts. But this one only has 1 size. And thanks everybody for letting me know that the spammers were there, but I wasn't looking at the screen at the time, and I appreciate you all making me aware that he was there. And I did block him, so he's not blocked. I'm not going to read all your comments in the chat box, but you all are funny. And the Quilted Marine says, T, you got to get some moderators to help block that trash. Yes, I do. I just, my husband has no interest in this at all. He's not even very technical savvy as far as using all of the technologies that are out. He's not a technique junkie. My daughter, I would have to get her, but she doesn't get off work. She works her regular job, and now she's actually doing a little part-time job to 7, so she wouldn't be here either. So if we end at 8, by the time she gets here at 7:30, we're almost finished. So, yeah, stuff comes through. You got to have a thick skin when you're on YouTube. That's the other thing about putting out videos. I put out my first video because I got asked some questions a lot about stack and whack quilt on how to pick fabrics, and so I made that video, and I've been adding, and I didn't do any other videos for years, and then I decided maybe I might want to answer some more questions, because as I'm doing lectures and giving workshops, I get asked the same questions over and over, and then I can just refer them to my channel. I do answer them, but I don't go into as depth when I'm in person. I just refer them to the videos at that point. But you do have to have a very thick skin if you are going to be a YouTuber, because you do have some people that don't have anything else in their life but to just harass people that are on social media. Any social media. It's not just YouTube. Really, any social media. So just know when you're putting yourself out there that there's a possibility that you're going to get that. I've been called a lot of things. I have a very thick skin. When I get off of this channel, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to rest in peace. Nothing will bother me. If you're not in my immediate reach, I don't care what you say. So just have at it. So, you know, I love YouTube because I like helping my viewers, the people that watch me and appreciate what I do. So just know that if you're trying to get into making videos or doing anything on social media. And then I have a question saying, do you use EQ8? Yes, I do. I use EQ8. And I'm just learning that I can record my machine. So there are some things, some videos that I want to do recording my screen. And after I get those done, maybe we can do some very basic EQ lessons. That will have to let me know, though, who all has EQ and if you're interested in that. Oh my goodness, Joan just came back and said that the mountaintop quilt pattern is no longer available according to Google. So let me go over here really quick and do a Google search. And then I just closed the whole window. Yeah. Hit the wrong button. I don't even know what button I hit to make it all close, but it did. And for some reason, it's taking forever for it to open back up. So, Google mountaintop quilt pattern. Let me go to Google. I'm going to go to the images and then see if I can find it. Got it on Pinterest. Let me visit the page and see what page it is that Pinterest is going to take me to. And I'm not reading the comments right now because I'm trying to see if I can find someone online that's selling the pattern. I just went to a blog, so that was a blog. These are all Pinterest links. This pattern is actually by Editor Star, Laundry Basket Quilts. So, maybe if you go to her page, it's still taking me back to Pinterest. I did find who it's by. Like I said, since I'm working on it in a different size, I couldn't even remember whose pattern it was. The original pattern is 79 inches by 94. And it says this site can't be reached. So I'll see if I can find the place where I bought it. I bought it in Hannibal, Missouri. And it was a really popular pattern. They actually sold them for a long time. But again, you know who the pattern is by. You can go also to her site. Maybe she has it available there. Thank you all for thumbing up. I see somebody is telling people to do that. It has increased dramatically. Thank you so much. I'm still going back and reading the comments here because I'm way off now. And that Film at 5 quilt is actually a very easy quilt, and I might do some blocks on that. So since it's a tutorial and it's not a copyrighted thing, and then I can refer you back to the pattern, so maybe that's something that we can do on my site if you all like. Vicky says she bought EQ8 in Paducah. I have EQ6 and never opened that either, as we were building a huge house onto. Vicky, you got to use this stuff when you buy it. Anything that I spend more than like $10 or $15 for, I get home, I open those packages up, I get it out, and I at least use it once or twice. I have to, if I'm spending my money, I at least got to use it once. You got to open it up, Vicky. Eric says, what about Ray? Can he be your moderator? He lives on the other side of town, about 30 minutes from me. I don't think and then he works all day. I don't think he wants to be my technology guru. I'll have to think of something, though. Saying, I enjoy your YouTube live. I tell my friends that I attend YouTube University. That's so cute. Thank you so much. And the Quilty Marine says, that's right, alligator skin. Oh, Teresa says she's doing a stack and whack now that's like stained glass. That's pretty cool. And Rebecca says, thank you for the advice regarding social media. About to launch my do-it-yourself channel. And when you start, it's going to be great for your target audience, and they are really going to appreciate everything that you're doing. And that's what happened for me. I received so much love from my regular viewers or people that just had basic questions that they were so afraid to ask other people in person because they thought it was a dumb question. And I find in quilting, You just got people at all different levels. So to me, there is no dumb question, because if you don't know, you're going to follow through with something that you don't know and make your job more hard for you to process than what it already is. Quilting is a time-consuming pastime. It's fun, but it is a lot of work. And so I do try to make it easy for people that want to go a particular route. So, and try to make people open their eyes and see things in other aspects, or see how to do things other ways, or look at things in a different way. Because you can do the same thing so many times, it's not even funny. Let me see. I'm still trying to get through the comments here. I hit thumbs up 4 times by mistake. That's funny. Okay, so let's see. We've got people talking about Amazon and EQ. And then, do you save patterns on your computer or do you print them? I am in the process of getting my patterns to my computer. And then, when I say computer, they're not really on my computer. I actually have an external hard drive that I save a lot of data on, and then I have to have 2 because I do back it up. I don't back it up as often as I should, but I do back up, and I'm in the process of trying to get rid of all paper documents, so that way when I need something, I'm not having a whole lot of paper that I'm storing. I'm actually running out of space that I can't store all this stuff. So I am in the process of trying to get all of mine on computer. So if I'm buying a new pattern and they have a download option, then yes, I go ahead and do the download option. Dewana is saying somebody has a video on YouTube. I'm not sure if I missed something. I'm thinking that I must have. Betty George says it's on Editor Stars. It's Editors. Let me go back. I'm making up her name now. Yes. Editor Sitar website. I can't say her name anyway. And it's not really helping that my voice is hoarse and going in and out either. So sorry about that. It's just certain things that I just can't pronounce. And Dewana is saying they have a video on YouTube. I'm not sure what she's talking about. I'm hoping that when I go down through, it will be there. So can somebody give the link, if you haven't already, for the pattern on her website? Or maybe, and I may have to approve it. Pat says, I've been quietly watching all alone. You're not alone, Pat, when you're with us. And then you've got my chatty self here. And now they're really trying to recruit you, Ray, to be my YouTube technician. Now they want me to give you pound cake. And the Quilting Marine says subscribers can be moderators. Oh, really? Okay. So one of the first people here most every week is like Benita and Dewana. So maybe I'll look into that. Let me write that down, because if stuff isn't written down, it doesn't happen in my life. Check into moderators. So we got, I think I said Bonita is here most times. Anybody else want to volunteer? I think Dewana, she was in here first today. I don't know if she's first all the time. But if you're interested in volunteering to be a moderator, let me know, and then I'll look into that. I don't know how it works yet. Laundry basket quilts is easier to spell. Yes, it is. The mountaintop quilt. Oh, she's saying that the mountaintop quilt video is on YouTube. So did you all hear that? She says that there is a video for doing the quilt top on YouTube. So search for that. Vicky's saying she'll take the pound cake because my brother is down here saying he can't be bought. And that is so true. He either does it because he wants to or it's a gift. Okay, so for right now, then I'll just go ahead and put Bonita as moderator, and then we can figure it out. I can put like Quilting Marine as a moderator if I have to, and then we can figure it out. So once I figure that part out, I'll let you know, but I'll try with Bonita first and see if that works. But I don't get it every time we go live. I get it every now and then, and I do have certain words that are triggers that they will not even let the comments show. And I try not to make my comment section delayed by me having to moderate every comment because I don't want to do that. So every once in a while things will come in that shouldn't be here, but that's pretty funny. That is too funny. My brother don't even drive. So that's even funnier. So he's not going to do that. His wife drives him, and that would be involving two other people. So that definitely is not going to work. So I just appreciate him watching me at home. Got people saying they love the alphabet squares. Again, that's a pattern that's going to be coming out soon called Quilter's Graffiti. Eric says, hey T, do you buy patterns even though you could look at the picture and figure out how to make the quilt anyway? And it depends on if it's really a unique pattern, because what I'm finding is a lot of patterns are made from what I consider to be non-copyrighted blocks per se. So let's say if you're doing a log cabin quilt and you have somebody that's selling a pattern for a log cabin quilt, and they basically just hold on, everybody. Just a quick, let me answer this question. I think it's back working again. So if it's something that is a basic pattern where the block is not copyrighted, then I will not purchase the pattern. So I'm just looking at the comment section, making sure everybody knows that we're still here. We still have 54 people in the chat room, so I'm assuming that everybody is aware that we're back. So it just depends. Let me start over with the question. The question is, if it's a pattern that I see and I know that I can make it without purchasing the pattern, will I buy it? And I was stating that if it's a common block that's already non-copyright free, patterns that are a certain age are copyright free, like log cabins, any of your basic quilt blocks, your Ohio Star, Evening Star, there's over 6,000 quilt blocks that are copyright free. If you're using the basic quilt block, then I don't consider that to be a copyright. What's a copyright is their instructions and how they made that block. So I can't come along and give you the exact same instructions using their photos and that kind of thing to show you how something is completed. But if it's a unique block that I haven't seen anywhere and I know that it's a copyright block, then yes, I go ahead and, or copyright quilt, then yes, I go ahead and purchase that product. But I don't purchase anything that I can make that's a basic quilt design that I know the actual design itself is not copyrighted. I hope you understand that part. Okay. And I hope everybody's, if you needed to, you might have to refresh your screen to get the last part. So was that clear for you, Eric? I'm hoping I answered your question because it's pretty far down now. Okay. And so that's how I work. I have about 3 or 4 books, and I don't have any of them in here. But I have like 3 or 4 block books, and they have all of the generic quilt block patterns and designs. And if somebody changes a line and make it a unique block at that point, then it's considered copyright under the new block. But all of your blocks that are in EQ, those are not copyrighted designs. You can do whatever you want with those anytime you want. And that's okay. But if somebody will open up one of those blocks and then start manipulating it and doing something different with it as far as moving the actual lines of the block, then that block is what's copyright. On generic blocks where there is no copyright, then you're just, what's copyright is how they wrote the instructions to make that block. Now, we could accidentally write the same instructions, but as long as I'm not using your wording and your terminology and stealing your lines word for word, then I'm okay over here making the exact same pattern, but using my words and my terminology. Having a cold is just nasty. Need to trash. Sorry about that. So I am done for today. If we don't have any more questions, if you all have suggestions for topics, I'm kind of just pulling topics as I think of them, or if somebody asks me a question, then I tend to do that. I have been asked a lot about how I pick fabrics for quilts. And that's a little bit more complicated for me to explain because I do mostly scrap quilts, but I'll try to talk about that either in a regular video or do it as YouTube live. So I will talk about that at some point as well. So thank you everyone for chatting with us. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. I'm just going to wait a little bit because I see a lot of you are typing in goodbye. So I see Vicky saying that her husband is one of the 3 men at the Quilt Guild that they joined in January. That's pretty cool that he joined with you. That was awesome. So good night, everybody. See you all next week at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.